gentlemen, I was thinking maybe we could do a bit of an overview, right? What's been happening lately in the market? And traditionally in this conference, we always talked about P2P. We think about the US sender, Latin America receiver, and kind of that's the business. And it's changed dramatically, right? Now you have intra-country payments and inter-country payments. You have business payments that are flowing just from north to south, but also from south to north. You have consumer to businesses, paying in-country and paying international goods as well. So tell us a little bit of what you're seeing, and maybe we start with you, and then we'll go down and take it from there.
Fantastic, thank you. One element that we'll be looking at Paysend is what's really happened with the flows. So we talk about cross-border payments and thinking of remittances. Yes, very important. But what about the flows? The flows in general. Flows because everyone needs to be paid or everyone needs to pay for something. Whether you are a consumer or you happen to be a business. You happen to buy your goods and services from China and somehow you need your container to be delivered. Now, traditionally, the banks will handle most of it on their side, and then the cash in, cash out will handle the remittances. And it was kind of two different worlds. What you see today as you advance, and Visa gave us a fantastic overview this morning. If you missed it, I don't know if this is going to be video, but I highly recommend it. Fantastic overview of how the industry has evolved from being a one shop where you will go and have the relationship to suddenly expanding to other elements that will come, and now, and in years to come, about collaboration and co-creation. That's the element that I want to recommend and to see. Collaboration and co-creation. I have something that is very good that I can offer others for the benefit of the customer, for the benefits of the consumer. A bank might need to use correspondent banks, 2 or 3 stops to get to the final destination of their funds. Well, among tech companies and fintech, we probably can do it faster, cheaper, and as or more secure. So that's the point. But no one of us individually have the answer. Collectively, we have many different answers.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday during the digital workshop. So it's all about collaboration because it's very difficult to build everything. And so you have companies specializing more and more and being excellent at what they do, and then everybody is open now to cooperating, and it creates such a much better experience and much better product for the consumer.
Not afraid to collaborate.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, on that, I think that one of the most interesting things that you can see here is that there's a lot of companies. Many of those do kind of the same thing. Many of those could perceive each other as a competitor, but it's not the case. You can have a conversation with all of them, and you'll find value in all that they do. I mean, I haven't seen one company that actually do everything perfect. They have like a particular thing that they do great, and there are other things that they want to do, but they're not experts in that. And I was speaking yesterday with a couple of banks here, and they were asking me about, hey, if we get to do business, how could we do it? I mean, how long will it take for you to connect into us? And I was like, 2 weeks. How? It was unthinkable at the end, but that's the things that we specialized, and we are that. I mean, we have a lot of challenges in other things, so on compliance, on legal, ecotech, but not tech. Tech is not an issue right now. And also things that I've seen lately, and is that as I mentioned before, I've been here for a number of years, and I remember that all we talked about was remittances and how P2P transactions, north to south, MTOs around the world trying to send money to Latin America. That was the conversation for years. And now, that's just one tiny portion of the things that you can talk about. Now, companies are asking about, hey, can you help us with business payments? Can you help us to actually not thinking about money coming from north to south, but maybe, hey, we have this need in Mexico and we need to send flows to Europe. Can you help us collect in Mexican pesos and then move that money out of the country to pay for any other service? Then there's e-commerce. Now you can buy whatever you want anywhere in the world, and you need to pay for that. And you don't even need a credit card anymore. There's solutions that we have, for example, that you can collect and you can pay locally in a mobile wallet locally in each country for a product that you purchase out of China. So, and that's the kind of things that I've seen, and that's the kind of collaboration that we can find each other, because I'm sure some of these solutions can help everyone. Not everyone is going to be willing or to invest in that and to develop that, but I'm sure you'll find here someone that it's actually doing it, and you could partner with them, and that's the interesting part of it.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And Micael, how about the smallest country in Latin America?
Yeah,
What's happening in Brazil?
There's a lot happening in Brazil. I'm really glad about it. We are for sure the most bureaucratic country in the world. You know, if you've never been in Brazil and tried to like open a company like 10 years ago, it would be like hell. But a lot of things happening there, and mainly in the FX environment. Before talking about it, you were talking about connections. If there's one thing that the pandemics brought us, is that digital is not tomorrow. Digital is today. And the companies that start developing it like 5 years ago, they have the solution now. It's what just he was saying. You don't have to start developing from scratch. You can collect some piece here, some piece here, some piece here. Think about a new product and line of revenue and deliver it to your client. If there's one good thing that the actual government of Brazil, the actual president did, is to give power to the central bank. And the central bank of Brazil had the authority to make a lot of big changes going through technology. Everybody knows here about PIX. PIX is an example for the whole world. But PIX doesn't bring just transfer. All the open finance and open banking is already happening in Brazil, and it changed everything. I will talk about a little bit later about three main key points that are happening in Brazil. We are talking about new legislation of FX. We are talking about net the taxes involving financial transaction. We are talking about blockchain and crypto actives regulation. So there's a lot happening there, but we can keep the conversation and talk about it later.
You went where I wanted to go with this. So with all these flows starting to emerge, well, in the case I wouldn't start to emerge, but happening now in the region, how is the regulation framework evolving? Are there still obstacles to the free flow of, well, of course there is obstacle to free flow of funds, but at least has there been changes in laws that enable more of these funds to flow more freely, more organized, and also cater to all the different type of use cases, business, consumer, B2B2C, and so on?
So let's start with Brazil, which is...
Well, let's start with Brazil. I'm glad to be the example of it. Just for you to know, some of our FX laws are from the 1920s. My grandmother was not born in the 1920s. I'm 34. So can you imagine the hell that is to send or bring money for any kind of country? You have like more than 200, it's a fact, purpose of transaction. And each purpose has its own rules and documentation that is needed to make the cross-border payments. So can you imagine my challenge here to turn everything digital, but with these new laws that are coming next year, it's on January, it's already happening. A lot of things are going to change about it. We have one doubt that we are changing the government now, the president, in the next year. We don't know if everything is going to keep as the same that it should. But talking about laws, everything is going to be more easier in Brazil and better for everyone, you know. So I'm really glad about it.
I thank you, Brazil, for PIX.
So do I.
Yeah, thank you, because now all eyes in Latin America are on that. I've seen articles and news about the Central Bank of Colombia taking a look at PIX. I'm sure in other countries as well. And it's the regulators we're talking about, the central bank we're talking about, trying to figure out a better way to pay each other in real time. That was unthinkable before. So thank you guys, go you for that one. And yes, it's amazing how regulators have taken a different approach to this, and they're actually as much as they can to be actually the proponents of different things. No, it's not only coming from us and hey, we need this, we need that, we need change of this. We're not going to change the regulators themselves. There's so much we can do from a lobby perspective. But when you see those initiatives coming from actual regulators, that changes the game completely. And that's what we've been seeing lately. It's not going to happen from one day to the other, but at least we're seeing some signs. And yeah, technology changes from one moment to the other. Regulation is not the same, but we've seen that change, and we expect that to be the new norm. The new norm. I mean, I think regulators and central banks need to be the first ones to find solutions for everyone. We've seen that. I think that, again, PIX was a great example of it. And yeah, things are changing. There's still barriers, but the conversation that we have right now is not if you can pay certain ways. Can you do it real time? Can you do it now? And if it's not like that, it's a barrier. And the more you talk about it, the more you hear from everyone saying, no, yeah, if we don't have it right now, we're this close to having it, because that's happening, and that was unthinkable before. So, yeah, I think that change is coming, and we've seen it. Change is here, I'll say.
Some numbers. I think that was not good in Brazil was the number of banks. We had like 20 big banks, just 20. As the time that the central bank got power, a lot of new banks were born, and they were all tech banks. So we don't have much legacy on development. So this is one of the things why PIX got so high and faster. Another point, the pandemics brought us 30 million people that were unbanked because the government was paying like 600 reais to people, but it should be through PIX. So you have a lot of people that were living with no bank accounts, and now they have it. We make like cross-border payments through PIX in 100 seconds. It's inside the account in Brazil.
I would probably add, fully agree, is the couple of leapfrogs that happen from time to time generationally. Let's take a pause and realize most of the regulators go back to 60, 70 years. That's how the system was based in place. We got, success after World War II. Let's organize the financial system. This is the way it's going to work. We all accept it, and it runs. And then you start seeing some changes. Any Europeans in the room? Well, SEPA is an excellent example. Now it's all, but back then, wow, yeah. One simple payment system. And what I see is that, in Latin America, we're going to see, and in Africa and in Asia, we're going to see leapfrogging some things that eventually will take more developed economies a little longer to happen. Because comfort zone gets you to just why to break it if it works. But the reality is that we're going to see different things and different elements happen. There is an anecdote to finalize. One of a very large new company, tech company in Mexico, Rappi, that many of us know, I was talking about a year ago with the CEO of their bank. And he was sharing an anecdote when they were getting the license that the regulator were saying, well, we need to see your servers. Yeah. Well, where do I take you? Indonesia, Seattle, I don't know, Europe. Well, no, I need to see the room of your servers. Well, there's no such a room. So that's just an example. We're going to see a number of things happening. I am afraid that North America will be a little lagging because of the comfort zone.
So, gives me memories of when early in my career I was planting flags for Western Union around the world. We're talking about, I'm going to date myself now, but the late 90s or mid 90s. Most of the central banks only had regulations around banks. And some had something around FX houses and nothing else. And we actually had to work with some central banks, and they invited us and said, what is this thing, money transfer? And how do we regulate it? What can you tell us and teach us? And then we're going to come up with the rules on how to catch you guys if you do bad stuff. And it was very symbiotic, which was good. And actually, some countries enacted specific money transfer regulations because of those interactions, because they didn't exist before. So to your point about regional initiatives, right? And I have two questions, and I'll start with that one. Do you think, and are there talks happening between governments or central banks around a common framework that will be a payment system that's pan-regional, or do you think the problem is going to really be solved by the private sector and people like you guys who are going to build it, interconnect, and just run with it and let the regulators catch up?
Well, personally, I will not hold my hopes for the governments to get organized and maybe support it. Look at models like PICS. But I would say more that on behalf of the consumer, the sector will find ways to find the interoperability, you know the word, interoperability. But the point is, it will be driven by the consumer demand, and it will be on the benefit of the consumer. But it will have to be probably a public-private partnership. I don't think we can do it alone, the private sector.
I think that, I agree with you. I think that it will come maybe on a private initiative, on a private build solution, I think. I mean, if I think of Thunes, for example, and the coverage that we have, we can actually interconnect many countries, yeah. But sometimes it's the regulation that it's a barrier. So I think that it has to come, yeah, we can provide the technology, we can provide the service, but we need the regulator to come with us and help us do it on a seamless way also. So it becomes easier for everyone, so everyone understands it, and we can apply the same concepts for each particular country, each particular region, which is the challenge. I've heard here a couple of times in the last couple of days about, yeah, central banks and governments trying to figure out a way to interconnect. Again, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I mean, I'm hesitant because of history, but they made surprises. I don't know. But what I know is that they are open to come together with the private sector and companies such as ours to do it together, providing the framework so it can be successful. Otherwise, it's impossible. We can do we can build that, but if the regulators are not with us, it becomes much more difficult to do it. It will take a lot of time, and there's many risks attached to it. So it has to be something that we can do together. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of if anymore. It's a matter of when and how. When we were the result of good examples and bad examples of what we've been doing. One time it will reach the governments and they will need to choose how to follow and how to integrate. But before they need to have, let's bring it to the crypto actives. We are facing the problem with FTX now. For regulation, it's necessary to see and try to build rules and laws that will follow the bad, avoid the bad examples, and get the good examples, so then create an interconnection between banks and countries. So I think that, I'm sure about it, that what we've been doing through the pandemics, before the pandemics, and now are going to dictate what the governments and how the governments are going to interconnect the banks. When? It will depend of the country, depend of the institution, but for sure, we will have this connectivity.
So speaking of depending on the countries, not all countries are equal, obviously. What differences do you see, and maybe what kind of opportunities does that create for people in this room of differences between countries, where it comes either from a technology existence, adoption, spreading around and gaining critical mass, or maybe regulatory obstacles that make those differences? I mean, is there room for an operator to go into Peru and do outbound business payment because it doesn't exist yet? So where are the little treasures that people can go and find?
Do you want to start this time? Just to break the
Good,
mold.
now I can think. Now I can think about it. Let's start.
I can think of an example on how governments and how they can support without even know it on how to expand on opportunities. And let's talk about the pandemic. So 2 years ago, Colombia had a big project. The government of Colombia had a big project to pay subsidies to people in need, and they built this huge network of cash locations in which people could collect that. But that was over from one moment to the other. It was not an option. And before that, actually, they were thinking about, hey, what else could we use to provide services to people in remote parts of the world? And then mobile wallets came along. And I don't know if you guys know, but if I'm not mistaken, and I might be wrong, don't take my word of it, but as far as I know, one of the most successful mobile wallets in the region, both of them are in Colombia. There are over 20 or 25 million mobile wallets right now in Colombia, in a country which is 50 million people. So 50% of people in Colombia has a mobile wallet, which is unthinkable in that. And one of the things that helped that was the government partnered with one of these wallets to start sending those small payments using mobile wallets. And that's the kind of things that can definitely make a difference in a very short period of time. And if other countries follow a little bit on that, they will support without even knowing it, the growth of such products. So that's what I can think of a good example of things that you can identify, particularly in country. And you don't even have to change the regulation about it. It's just figuring out, thinking outside the box and thinking, hey, how we can do this better.
There is one that comes to my mind. Well, there are a number, but I like to think about use cases. Use cases might drive, and situations that eventually might not be there. I told you what I was passionate about at the beginning, so financial inclusion. For us, that's going to be one element in which, although it's a need for every country, it might drive a particular solution that will be more convenient or more attractive in one versus the other. And now we are stopping to disassociate that digital payments, it's for those who can, and those who are excluded from financial system cannot participate, because that is not true anymore. You mentioned the wallets. I will say there is more and more less of I am not part of a financial vehicle. I'm part of a new financial vehicle, which is completely different. I'm already a mobile user, a mobile wallet user. I can have an instant card issue. Somewhere in the news, a company mentioned something yesterday. They can issue an instant card right away when you receive your remittance. There is a paying not anymore by credit cards between companies, but paying by accounts, paying by, so many things are happening, but use case, what exactly are we trying to solve for? And then the space opens up very nicely.
Yeah, this is exactly what I think is the largest opportunity on P2B or B2B. Well, as fast as we can transact with more strict KYC and knowing exactly who is paying and matching the values, the transaction between companies, between countries, become more secure and more fast. So you can transact goods between countries as fast as they arrive. So if we can provide and make like drop shipping, for example, you have like platforms with a lot of stores that sells product from China or from Europe or from, you can make like a marketplace for bananas, for example, bananas for Brazil, bananas for Colombia, and someone can buy it. I'm creating a business right now. And so the payment between and behind the curtains, there's an FX there. So you can provide solutions that are built inside a lot of places that will make transactions faster between P2B, can be a person buying bananas from somewhere, or can be a company buying bananas, importing bananas from somewhere. So I think that the largest opportunity are on P2B or B2B.
So thank you for that. So if I take
You're lying,
Gabriel, your percent, and your comment, Jairo, on this, and Micael as well, any country that has less than 50% wallet penetration in Latin America is ripe for somebody to come in there and sell mobile wallets, right? Opportunity right there.
Absolutely.
And then if there's no B2B payment rails, that's another business opportunity. If there's no outbound e-commerce rails, another business opportunity. So it's really, I mean, from P2P, now we got this huge business opportunity that is still underserved, I guess, essentially in many, many markets. Great. Well, hopefully people are taking notes. Time to get on a plane and start doing some business. But that's exciting. And frankly, I agree. One of you commented earlier that the U.S. will be, I think it was you, Jairo, U.S. will be behind, and I think we will be. There are some initiatives here, but I think it's much more progressive and progressing at a faster rate in Latin America.
And let's take the opportunity of being here. So CrossTech is giving us the forum. We have ideas. Something that I would like to see, and I hope to have many conversations this afternoon and tomorrow, is not about what I offer. It's about what collectively we can do. I'm not here to sell. I'm here with eventually a need, and collectively we have from the big guys at Visa, which are very, very open to explore ideas, to the regional big players that are amazing on it, banks who are in the space, tech companies, innovators like Thunes and Paysend. Let's have those conversations. And we're going to be surprised. The forum is priceless. Sorry, that hasn't to do anything with the other.
No, absolutely. And actually, that's a good point because if we went from the simple world of I made some cash in the U.S., I sent $300 to Colombia, somebody picks it up and they go buy the groceries and pay the rent.
Transactional only.
Right, it was transactional, and it one way and cash. And now it's becoming incredibly more complex, right? So people want a like banking or deposit product so they can load money, let's call it into the cloud. Like they load money, have money somewhere. And from there, they want to do several things. They want to receive money, they want to send money, they want to make business payments, they want to shop, they want to buy on Amazon, they want to pay their business correspondent. So how do you think of the role of in general, mobile wallets and neobanks versus traditional banks in empowering that approach, right? So fintechs typically are very quick at adopting things. Somebody sets up, let's say, a neobank, and all of a sudden they connect to all the payment rails, and they connect to, they issue an instant card, and now you can buy online, and all of a sudden you're off to the races, right? And all your products are in one place. So I guess my question has a couple of angles to it. One, how do you see this evolving from a bank versus fintechs and neobanks perspective? And who do you think is kind of going to come out ahead of capturing this opportunity and responding better to the consumer need? And I think also, well, let's start with that, and then I have a follow-on question.
I think that people that are born in today are going to already be the people that don't even know that an FX exists. I think that the place that we are going in a very close future will be like, I don't even know what I'm doing on FX. I don't even know if I am making a transaction, like entering what's the FX, send. No, everything will be built inside, The fight of big banks against fintechs and neobanks, some of fintechs and neobanks are going to be bought. It's a fact. You buy technology and implement it. Some of big banks are going to be rebuilt from scratch. It's already happening in Brazil. Sometimes it's faster for you to start a new bank from scratch than trying to develop and adapt the monster you already have in technology legacy. We need big banks, man, for now. Small banks today are going to be big banks tomorrow. It's a matter of time and how we do. So again, I see that everybody can work together. We have a lot of big banks that are already running on blockchain, for example. Blockchain is a 20 years technology that we are using now. And it was thinking inside Xerox, Can you imagine that? And we are using on financial institutions, NFTs, stable coins. It's crazy. We are living like the dream of a new financial system.
I think that the conversation around who's gonna beat who has changed a little bit, and is more about who will adapt better and who will be able to collaborate better with each other. I think that first, fintechs and these new banks were perceived as a threat to traditional banks because they were coming after the same customers. Then they realized, no, maybe they're not coming after the same customers, but maybe they're started with the unbanked customers. So there's a whole bunch of people that is not served by traditional banks that were now being served by these mobile wallets and stuff. But and at the end, you mentioned Rappi in Colombia. Yeah. Rappi in Colombia, yeah, it was conceived as something, and with a view of becoming, an all-stop app. And it was actually one of the first investors of Rappi in Colombia was a traditional bank. They were the first investors on that one, and once they launched the mobile wallet features, it actually ran behind a mobile wallet of a traditional bank in Colombia. So that's collaboration, and that's what has made that app successful is that at the end, banks have seen the value on that, have seen how fast they can move, and they have the funds to do it and to support it and have somebody else build it for you. But at the end, you're serving your own purpose. And in Colombia, what's happening is that big banks own mobile wallets, but they have spin off these mobile wallets because they understand that they can help each other, but they just move at different paces. And they just have to let them run and do their own thing, and then find a way to collaborate. And you mentioned that from the start of this conversation. It's about collaboration. It's about let me use what you can do good, what you can do better than I. Let's do it. Let's partner and do it. I don't want to do your business. I want to work with you because you know how to do it. And then what can I do for you? And that's exactly what's going to happen, I think.
Yep. I'll take your follow-up question.
Well, so where I was going with this is, Micael, you said something very important to me earlier, and then you repeated it now. They will not know what rails the money transfer came in from, right? All they're gonna know is the money showed up.
It doesn't matter.
And it doesn't
For
matter.
us, matter a lot. But for the client?
And it doesn't matter. And so I think that's kind of a call to action for the group here, is that ultimately, rails will be rails, and they will interconnect and cooperate and create a huge network of rails. Interoperate across the globe. But ultimately what's going to matter is what's on your mobile phone, right? You have this particular financial relationship, be it with a bank, and there's actually a lot of banks here, Bantrab, one of them, that has their own app. They're very well ahead of the curve. But that's what's going to matter, what you have on your phone and how it plugs to the rest of the world and how things move. You don't want to know, you don't care. And that's important because also you probably will be less price sensitive, because what's going to matter is the aggregated service that you're receiving from that application, and not necessarily the fact that the FX is 1 cent better here, or that has the network expansion doesn't matter anymore because it's all electronic. And so that I think is going to be a very interesting phenomenon, and kind of a bit of a part of why CrossTech is CrossTech, right? Not IMTC anymore. It's really this fintechs cooperation across the region that needs to, one, enable the rails, but also the idea that you have to evolve from a technology perspective from a remittance company to something that's more customer relationship, that ultimately will plug into everything and enable all these options, right? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think embedded finance is here to continue evolving, where there is a more seamless experience for the consumer, whether it's an individual or a business. It really speaks to what is the best option in a moment in the market at the right particular moment. I have seen companies that are now building redundancies to find the best possible channel in that particular moment. Even, you probably see it more, but on FX rate, using 3 or 4 different houses to be able to find what's the best rate that day with whom. Now, the consumer doesn't even know, but at the end of the day, creates that pass-through end-to-end solution that only brings benefit to the customer at the end.
I think one of the beauties of this business is the less that the customer knows about you, the better. I mean, we have this platform and we move money from countries to countries. And if you go here in Miami or everywhere and you ask, hey, a customer that's sending a transaction to his family in Mexico, do you know what Thunes is? Nobody knows. And that's perfectly fine with it. We don't want them to know, because at the end, what we are providing, it's a service in which that person can send that transaction instantly to the receiver in Mexico. They don't care how the transaction goes there. And that's what we build, and that's what everyone here is working about. It's not a matter of I don't want to. It depends on the company, but I don't want to be remembered by the customer. No, it doesn't matter. I just want to provide a service that it's at a fair price and as fast as can and as perfect as it can be done. And so there's no ego behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty close what I was going to say. Today at Frente we have more than 1,500 of partners that had clients. So we can reach almost 70 million people in Brazil, for example, more than 70 million, sorry. One of our partners banks they have like 75 million clients. Just in pandemics, they got like 30 new million.
Sure.
Yeah, and we are inside. The client doesn't even know it. And it doesn't matter. It matters that we are making difference in the life of the client. It can be a paper money or it can be a transaction. It doesn't matter. Or something he's buying inside a super app or something like it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It can be a mileage program. It can be an influencer. It can be anyone that wants to bring and need like a new line of revenue or a one-stop shop for the final client. You know?
So the question should be, what do we collectively bring to Ian at Twitter so he doesn't have to build something?
Yeah.
The Twitter X, right? Well, he'll probably outsource it.
Okay, well then, and one of us or collectively or many of us will probably run a piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I think everybody sees this is really an invitation for technological evolution and collaboration for everybody. I think that the sum of the parts is equal greater than the parts individually, and there's no pride of ownership. Nobody has a walled garden. Everybody's trying to interconnect to ultimately provide a frictionless, better customer experience. And I think those who do it more successfully will prevail because they'll own the customer relationship. They'll provide more and more options and take care of all their unmet needs. And it sounds like the region is ripe for players to come in and take advantage. The need is there, the technology is there, the rails are there. It's just a matter of coming and putting it together and starting, and maybe the wallet adoption in Colombia will be 80% next time we're here, but it will be probably more and more in every country. So that was exciting. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your contribution. So Micael from Frente Corretora, Gabriel from Thunes, and Javier from Paysend. Much appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And
Thank
your
you for having
contribution.
us.
I hope you guys benefited and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Happy lunch.
Thank you, everybody.
Bon appétit.